Have you ever wondered what your last name really says about you? Maybe you've heard your Irish surname pronounced differently by cousins a generation apart, or you saw a clipping that said, "descendant of a warrior," and thought, is that all there is? Irish surnames are tiny, living museums. They store stories about occupations, landscapes, clan loyalties, religious devotion, and sometimes the jokes or insults that once described an ancestor. They whisper of rivers crossed, battles fought, and the quiet trades that kept communities alive. For many Irish, and for the millions in the diaspora, a surname is not just identity, it's a conversation starter, a thread that connects you to a place you may have never visited. Today, we'll walk through the origins of Irish surnames, how to read them, what common prefixes like O and Mac mean, how Norman and English rule changed them, and, because I know you'll want it, a long list of common names broken down so you can find your own. This will be warm, story-driven, and geared toward listeners who appreciate the human side of history. Let's begin. Most of Europe waited until the late Middle Ages to make family names hereditary. Ireland did something remarkable. It began using fixed surnames much earlier, in some cases as early as the 10th and 11th centuries. Ireland's social structure was organized around kin groups and septs, extended family networks led by chieftains in a landscape of small kingdoms and frequent competition. Names served as shorthand for alliances and loyalties. To say your name was O'Don or MacMurra was to tell the world where your loyalties lay, and sometimes even who your enemies were. Surnames were tied to land and rank, and in many cases they were useful for legal claims and reputation. If your name connected you to a particular sept or a hereditary office, it mattered in disputes, marriages, and local politics. Irish surnames have a few markers that are incredibly helpful once you understand them. O from O generally means grandson of or descendant of. When you see O'Connor or O'Brien, the name originally claimed descent from an ancestor named Conchobar or Brian. Mac, also written Mech, means son of. McCarthy therefore means son of Carthac. Fitz is not Gaelic, it's Anglo-Norman. It comes from the Old French fils, later Fitz, meaning son of, so Fitzgerald literally means son of Gerald. There are also feminine forms in older Gaelic practice. Ni, daughter of. Nick, daughter of the son of. Bean, wife of, shows up in older records or Gaelic usage. In modern civil records, these forms are less commonly used, but culturally they are still part of the tradition. These little prefixes tell you immediately whether the name started life as a patronym, son, a dynastic claim, descendant, or in the case of Norman names, an imported naming practice. Some surnames read like banners: O'Brien, O'Neill, O'Donnell, names tied to dynasties and to persons of historical or legendary importance. Take O'Brien. The family name commemorates Brian Boroma, the High King whose victory at Clontarf in 1014 reshaped power relations in Ireland. To bear the O'Brien name once meant you belonged to a lineage recognized across Munster and beyond. O'Neill traces to Niall of the Nine Hostages, a figure whose dynasty dominated much of Ulster, but names memorialize possibility, not present power. Branches of a ruling family could sink into poverty after a few generations, while previously obscure families might gain local prominence through marriage or trade. Irish society prized more than warrior status. Poets, bards, brehons, blacksmiths, and clerics had deep social roles, and their professions became surnames. Names like MacEgan, son of the bard, point to families of poets or historians. McGowan, from Gobar, blacksmith, gave rise to anglicized forms such as Gowan, and in some records even translated to Smith. The learned families, scribes, and clerical dynasties often preserved texts and local memory, so their surnames flag a cultural contribution as much as an economic one. Ireland's topography is written into many names. Surnames like O Leabhain, from Sliab, mountain, or O Leathbhain, of the town or settlement, signal geographic origins. In a world before maps, saying, "we're of that hill," could answer where you belonged. Place-based names helped identify who had grazing rights, where a sept's territory lay, and sometimes how a group made its living. The 12th century Norman invasion introduced Anglo-Norman families and naming styles. Fitz names, Fitzgerald, Fitzpatrick, used a patronymic in Norman French, Fils, Fitz, that meant son of. Over centuries, many Fitz families became thoroughly Irish, marrying, learning Gaelic, and participating fully in Gaelic polity. Under extended English influence and rule, Gaelic names faced pressure to change. Surnames were often anglicized, sometimes phonetically, sometimes by meaning. O'Conchopair became O'Connor. McGabbon might be recorded as McGowan or even Smith in English records. This process was uneven, sometimes coercive, sometimes practical. Families often adapted names to survive legal and social systems dominated by English. In the 20th century, with Ireland's political independence, many families reclaimed their Gaelic forms, restoring O's and Macs as an act of cultural revival. The Great Famine, and later economic pressures, sent millions abroad. Surnames traveled, Murphy, Kelly, Ryan, O'Brien, and became woven into the Americas, Australia, and Britain. Sometimes names were altered on arrival, sometimes they were retained as proud tokens of origin. Before examples of individual names, here are short patterns. Murphy, O Murchada, descendant of Murchad, sea warrior. Kelly, O Tealag, descendant of Tealach, bright-headed or church-linked. O'Neill, O Nail, descendant of Neil, linked to the Yui Nail dynasty. Names point to ancestors, personal names, occupations, geography, or foreign origins. Etymology is rarely tidy. Many surnames have multiple possible origins, regional variants, and centuries of spelling drift. Medieval scribes spelled names differently. English clerks transcribed Gaelic sounds imperfectly. Two different Gaelic names could end up with the same anglicized spelling. The best practice: combine a suggested meaning with regional evidence where the name historically clustered and documentary records. Start at home. Ask relatives for names, dates, and stories. Family Bibles, funeral cards, and old letters are gold. Check civil and parish records. Many Irish records are digitized. Births, marriages, and deaths can anchor a family to a county. Use surname references. Maclay Sart, the Irish Times database, and county histories indicate regional concentrations and variant spellings. Triangulate. If you find a consistent surname spelling in the same parish across generations, that's strong evidence. Use DNA judiciously. Genetic tests can suggest regional affinities, but they don't replace documentary proof. A surname offers a sense of continuity. For older viewers, names evoke kitchens and car rides, songs hummed at weddings, and kitchen table stories that carried the clan across oceans. Understanding a name isn't an exercise in vanity, it's a gentle way to honor the labor and love those names encapsulate. A name is a story, an invitation. So, what does your Irish last name mean? It might point to a warrior, a craftsman, a saint, a stranger, or a place. It might be clear, or it may be delightfully ambiguous. Either way, it's an invitation to ask questions, to dig into records, and to connect with people who share your name around the world.